Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is MEUTHIA TISAA Janna and I'm from Class C English Literature. I would like to read reason about Chapter 6. Chapter 6. Structuralism and Post-Structuralism. Structuralism is a theoretical approach that identifies patterns in social arrangements, mostly notably language, while post-structuralism builds on the insights of structuralism. It holds all meaning to be fluid rather than universal and predictable. Ferdinand de Saussure. On the basis of this claim, he suggests that meaning is not the result of an essential correspondence between signifiers and signifieds. It is rather the result of difference and relationship. In other words, Saussure is a relational theory of language. Meaning is produced not through a one-to-one relation to things in the world, but by establishing difference. Saussure makes another distinction that has proved essential to the development of structuralism. This is the division of language into language and parallel. Language refers to the system of language, the rules and conventions that organize it. This is language as a social institution, and Roland Barthes, 1967, points out it is essentially a collective contract which one must accept in its entirety if one wishes to communicate. 14. Parallel refers to the individual utterance, the individual use of language. To clarify this point, Saussure compressed language to the game of chess. Here we can distinguish between the rules of the game and an actual game and of chess. Without the body of rules, there could be no actual game, but it is only in an actual game that these rules are manifest. 3-4. There is language and parallel. Structure and performance. It is the homogeneity of the structure that makes the heterogeneity of the performance possible. Structuralism takes two basic ideas from Saussure's work. First, a concern with the underlying relations of the text and practices the grammar that makes meaning possible. Second, the view that meaning is always the result of the interplay of relationship of selection and combination made possible by the underlying structure. Claude Levi-Strauss will write, and the American Western will write undertakes a structural study of the Western made Hollywood from 1930 to 1972. Concentrating on the top money makers in the genre. He treats Westerns as the depiction of myth. occupying space between individual and societal norms. He believes that's from that that's for these films to be popular, they must appeal to or reinforce the individuals who view it by communicating a symbolic meaning to them. To them, a takeoff of the work of Claude Lévi-Strauss, right? Extends symbolic meaning to reference and reflect the social institutions and, and attitudes the create and sustain myth. He notes that myth shifts in response to the social world in which the excites. As he explained it, my argument then is that within each period, the structure of the myth corresponds to the conceptual needs of social and self-understanding required by the dominant social institution of the period. The historical change in the structure of myth corresponds to the change in the structure of the dominant institutions, less psychological. The Levi-Strauss writes uses the tribal myth concept to explore the sociology of the Western film. He creates a typology of the Western genre, at least appraising the development of four recurring plot structures that repeat themselves with variants throughout the history of the Western film. Classical, vegans, transitional, and professional. Western films have innovated through these plot structures and rights seek to demonstrate of correct correlation between the films, their their plot lines, and the larger society that embraces them, offering short plots synopses as examples, writes then explores the structural meaning of these films. These films, the classical plot is represented in such films as Shen and emphasize the separation of the hero from the society around him and the strength of the individual to aid the society. The vengeance plots of the such films as One-Eyed Jacks, a variation of the classical plots, has similar elements but cast the hero outside of society and never capable of living it in it. The traditional plots, such as High Noon, anticipated new social values while forcing the hero to stand against both evil and the society at large. Finally, the professional plots, such as the depicted in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, targets that companionship comes only the bending together of skilled groups who sell their service and remain loyal to each each other but no others. Roland Barthes' mythologies. Barthes undertakes semiotics commentary of popular cultural objects well known in the French community, such as stick and chips, westerling, and even soup, power, and detergents, unitary the symbolic value of these objects in relation to their claim of university. At times finding that some objects retain significance interrelated with the bourgeoisie and capitalist cultures, he resolves to call the cultural power of this object myths. The study of myth, as understood by Barthes, is often undertaken under the field of the semiotics, which can be defined as a method of inquiry into the implicit signs present in the mental elements and elements of interaction with nature of within a community. To this end, sociological analysis can be said to be study of meanings that are present in our day-to-day systems of communication and scientification. The object of study in semiotics is not the science, but rather the general theory of signification, where the semiotician builds models of the conditions of production of the repetition of meaning. Semiotics are in everything that can be taken as a science. The purring of a cat to indicate its happiness, the signature as a sign of acceptance, or the image of mercy as a sign of socialism. Such relations are often internalized outside our logoneuritic rationality, otherwise known as our casual use of language. The power of such signs, very much like language, is that they shape some aspects of our perception of a given topic, implicitly guiding individual or collective approaches and opinions in relation to a given subject matter. Post-structuralism. Post-structuralism rejects the idea of an underlying structure even upon which meaning can research and granted meaning is always is process. What we call the meaning of a text is only ever a momentary stop in a connecting flow of interpretation following interpretations. So sure as we have not posited language as consisting of the relationship between the signifier, fear, the signified, and the signs, and the sign. The theorists of post-structuralism suggest that the situation is more complex than this. Signifiers do not produce signifieds, they produce more signifiers. Jagges Derrida. For Derrida, the binary obsession so important to structuralism is never a simple structural relation. It is always a relation of power in which one term is in a position of dominance with regard to the other. Edera contends that the opposition between speech and writing is a manifestation of the logocentrism of Western culture. The general assumption that there is a realm truth citing prior to and independent of the representation by linguistic science. Logocentrism encourage use to treat linguistic science as distinct from and essential to the phenomena they represent rather than as inextricably bound up with them. The logonarrative conception of truth, the reality as existing outside language, derives in turn from a deep-seated prejudice in Western philosophy, which Derrida characterizes as the metaphysics of presence. This is the tendency to conceive fundamental philosophical concepts such as truth, reality, and being the terms of ideas such as presence, essence, identity, and origin, and in the process to ignore the crucial role of absence and difference. Discourse and power. Michel Foucault. Foucault. One the primary concern of Michael Foucault is the relationship between knowledge and power and how this relationship operates within discourse and discursive formations. Foucault's concept of discourse is similar to Althusser's idea of the problematic, that is, both are organized and organizing bodies of knowledge with rules and regulation that governs particular practice, ways of speaking, thinking, and acting. Discourse are not ons and for all subservience to power or rise up against it. Any more the silence are. We must make allowance for the complex and unstable process where discourse can be both in instruments and the effects of power, but also in hindrance, a stumbling block, a point of resistance, and starting points for an opposing strategy. Discourse transmits and produces power. It reinforces it, but also undermines it and exposes it, renders it fragile, and makes it possible to thwart it. panoptic machine. The panopticon is a machine for dissociating the being seen diet in the peripheral ring. One is totally seen without ever seeing. In the central tower, one sees everything without ever being seen. Except from panopticism in Foucault, Michael discipline and punish the the birth of the prison, the fact that we are on the other side of the screen does not mean that we are safe from the demand to conform or safely outside of the panoptic machine.